In this video, I will explain to you the earliest cultures of China and the development of the first dynasties that laid the foundation for Chinese civilization. We will take a look at the important dynasties and events that shaped China's history from ancient times to the modern world power. Long before there were emperors and dynasties, early cultures developed in China. Along the great rivers such as the Yellow River, Huanghe, and the Yangtze River, the first villages emerged over 7,000 years ago. People there practiced agriculture, raised animals, and created intricate pottery. These early cultures laid the groundwork for later Chinese civilization. The Xia dynasty is traditionally considered China's first dynasty, said to have ruled from around 2100 to 1600 BCE. However, there is little clear archaeological evidence of its existence, which is why it is sometimes called legendary. Chinese historians tell of great kings like Yu the Great, who supposedly tamed the floods of the Yellow River. The Xia period marks the transition from prehistoric cultures to organized states. The Shang dynasty, circa 1600 to 1046 BCE, is the first Chinese dynasty well supported by archaeological finds. From this time come the earliest Chinese writings, often carved into turtle shells or ox bones, oracle bones. The Shang mastered advanced bronze casting techniques and waged wars from their capital Anyang. They had a complex belief system and practiced ancestor worship. The Zhou dynasty, circa 1046 to 256 BCE, overthrew the Shang and ruled China for a very long time, although not always with strong central power. They introduced the concept of the mandate of heaven. A ruler governed only as long as he was just and held the favor of heaven. The later Zhou period fractured into smaller warring states. Yet this turbulent time also saw great thinkers emerge. The late Zhou phase, circa 475 to 221 BCE, is known as the Warring States period. Various principalities fought fiercely for supremacy in China. Despite the wars, this was also a flourishing time for philosophy. Great thinkers like Confucius, who taught about morality, family, and good governance, Laozi, founder of Taoism, and many others developed ideas that still shape China today. The state of Qin defeated all other kingdoms and unified China in 221 BCE under the first emperor. The first emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi, was ruthless but effective. He standardized writing, measurements, weights, and currency, built roads, and began constructing the Great Wall. His massive tomb complex with the famous terracotta army attests to his power. After the rapid fall of the Qin dynasty, the long and stable Han dynasty followed, 206 BCE to 220 CE. This period is often called China's Golden Age. Confucianism became the state ideology, administration was improved, and the empire expanded. Through the famous Silk Road, lively trade and cultural exchange took place with Central Asia and even the Roman Empire. After the end of the Han dynasty, China broke apart into several often hostile states for centuries. The most famous period is the Three Kingdoms, Wei Shu Han, Wu, circa 220 to 280 CE, immortalized in many novels and legends. This was followed by more short-lived dynasties and a long era of political division between northern and southern China. Buddhism spread widely during this unsettled time. The Sui dynasty, 581 to 618 CE, managed to reunify China after centuries of division. Although short-lived, it left behind important constructions. Emperor Yang built or expanded the Grand Canal, a massive waterway linking northern and southern China and facilitating the transport of goods. However, the high costs of wars and construction projects led to uprisings and the dynasty's quick collapse. Following the Sui came the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, another glorious era in Chinese history. Under Tang emperors, China was open to the world, politically stable, and culturally highly developed. The capital Chang'an, now Xi'an, was one of the largest cities worldwide. Poetry, painting, and Buddhism flourished, and trade along the Silk Road prospered once again. After the Tang dynasty's collapse came the Song dynasty, 960 to 1279 CE. Though often threatened militarily by neighboring peoples, the Song era was one of great economic and technological progress. Trade boomed, the use of paper money spread, and important inventions such as movable type printing, the compass, and gunpowder were further developed or widely adopted. In the 13th century, the Mongols under Genghis Khan and his successors conquered vast parts of Asia, including China. Kublai Khan, Genghis's grandson, founded the Yuan dynasty in 1271 and ruled all of China. The Mongols governed as foreign rulers, but also promoted trade and exchange between China and the wider world. The Venetian merchant Marco Polo visited China during this period. In 1368, Chinese rebels expelled the Mongols and founded the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644 CE. The Ming emperors consolidated Chinese rule, massively rebuilt the Great Wall, and moved the capital to Beijing. In the early 15th century, Admiral Zheng He led huge naval expeditions as far as Africa. Later, however, China increasingly isolated itself from the outside world. An impressive symbol of the Ming and later Qing dynasties is the Forbidden City in Beijing. This vast palace complex was the residence and government seat of Chinese emperors for over 500 years. Ordinary citizens were strictly forbidden entry, hence the name. The magnificent halls, courtyards, and gardens testify to the emperor's power and wealth. The Qing dynasty, 1644 to 1912 CE, was China's last imperial dynasty. It was founded by the Manchu, a people from the northeast who conquered China. Under Qing emperors, China reached its greatest territorial extent. Initially, the empire experienced prosperity and stability, but in the 19th century it increasingly came under pressure from Western powers and internal unrest. In the 19th century, Western powers, especially Britain, tried to force trade with China. When China banned British opium trade, this led to the Opium Wars, 1839 to 1842 and 1856 to 1860. China was militarily defeated and forced to open ports to trade, cede territories like Hong Kong to Britain, and pay large reparations. These defeats were a great humiliation for China. In the mid-19th century, the Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864, shook the Qing Empire. Led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be Jesus Christ's younger brother, millions of rebels fought against imperial rule. The rebellion caused an estimated 20 million deaths and severely weakened the Qing dynasty. It was only suppressed with great difficulty and Western assistance. At the turn of the 20th century came the so-called Boxer Rebellion, 1899 to 1901. A xenophobic movement called the Boxers by Europeans attacked foreigners and Chinese Christians. The rebels besieged the diplomatic quarter in Beijing. An international military alliance of 8 nations crushed the rebellion, occupied Beijing, and forced China to make further concessions. Repeated humiliations and Qing weakness led to growing calls for change. Sun Yat-sen was a revolutionary who wanted to overthrow the monarchy and establish a republic. After an uprising in 1911, the last emperor abdicated. On January 1, 1912, the Republic of China was proclaimed, with Sun Yat-sen as its first provisional president. The young Republic of China was unstable. After the death of influential General Yuan Shikai, central authority collapsed. From around 1916 to 1928, regional military leaders, called warlords, controlled large parts of the country. They fought amongst themselves and exploited the population. National unity was lost. The Nationalist Party of China, the Kuomintang, KMT, founded by Sun Yat-sen, sought to reunify the country. After Sun's death, Chiang Kai-shek took over leadership of the KMT. Through military campaigns, he managed by the late 1920s to subdue the warlords at least formally and establish a national government in Nanjing. He became the most powerful man in China. Alongside the KMT, the Communist Party of China, CPC, emerged in the 1920s. Initially, KMT and CPC cooperated, but the alliance soon broke down and Chiang Kai-shek persecuted the communists. Mao Zedong became the CPC's most important leader. He focused on mobilizing peasants in the countryside for a communist revolution. Pursued by the KMT, the communists had to flee their bases in southern China in 1934 or 35. On the Long March, tens of thousands of fighters and party members endured great hardships as they traveled over 10,000 kilometers to the northwest of the country. Although few survived, the Long March became the founding myth of the CPC and solidified Mao's leadership. In 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China. This forced the hostile KMT and CPC into a fragile alliance against their common enemy. The war lasted until the end of World War II in 1945 and was devastating for China. Millions died, and large parts of the country were destroyed. After Japan's defeat in 1945, civil war between the KMT under Chiang Kai-shek and the CPC under Mao Zedong broke out openly again. Although the KMT was initially militarily superior and supported by the USA, the communists gained the upper hand through better strategy and stronger rural support. Corruption and mismanagement further weakened the KMT. On October 1, 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the People's Republic of China in Beijing. The communists had won the civil war. Chiang Kai-shek and the remnants of his KMT government fled to the island of Taiwan. This marked the end of the Republic of China on the mainland and the beginning of communist rule. In the late 1950s, Mao Zedong launched the Great Leap Forward campaign. The goal was to rapidly transform China into a communist paradise through agricultural collectivization and forced industrialization. The experiment failed catastrophically, causing a massive famine with millions of deaths. From 1966 to 1976, Mao initiated the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. Supposedly to purge bourgeois elements from the party, he plunged China into chaos. Youth Red Guards terrorized the population, intellectuals were persecuted, and cultural artifacts destroyed. The Cultural Revolution led to political instability, economic decline, and immense human suffering. After Mao's death in 1976, Deng Xiaoping gradually took power. From 1978, he implemented profound economic reforms. Agriculture was decollectivized, private businesses allowed, and the country opened to foreign investment, opening policy. These reforms triggered unprecedented economic growth, although the CPC maintained political control. Since the reforms, China has experienced rapid economic growth and is today the world's second-largest economy. The country plays an increasingly important role in global politics, economy, and technology. At the same time, it faces challenges like environmental pollution, social inequality, and questions about political freedoms under Communist Party rule.